Jumper. Commence countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers, more than meets the eye.
Tune in next week for a much better episode. For now, though, courage.
Hello and welcome to the 49th episode of ToyCast, sponsored by BigBadToyStore.com, where you can save from 20 to 90% on over 1,000 items. I am your host, TFG1Mike, and joining me for 2 episodes in a row is GeneralTekno. Hello.
Hello, everybody on the intertubes.
Ew, that doesn't sound right. That just...
I could have made it sound worse easily.
I'm sure you could have. Actually, this is a very special episode. We will be announcing a contest for episode 50, and we will also have my interview with Jim Sorenson, one of the co-authors of Transformers Animated The Allspark Almanac Volumes 1 and 2.
Oh, sweet. You interviewed him? Awesome.
About 3 minutes ago, right before I messaged you.
Why didn't you just talk toys with him? He's got a massive collection.
Well, the whole point of the interview was to get more details out of him on Volume 2. Because it's like, yeah, June can't get here fast enough.
Right. I'll definitely have to listen.
Yes, you will. It will also be featured as just a standalone interview in All Things Transformers, so if you don't want to listen to your own voice in this episode, you can just listen to that one. Because I'm gonna put the interview together in like 3 different episodes.
Well, whichever.
Well,
still, it'll be a good show to listen to. Because he's just looking at the wealth of information he has. I mean, I'm sure he'd be pretty good as just a ToyCast guest as well. So
yeah.
Same with even like Derek Wyatt. I mean, his collection is pretty impressive.
Right, but the thing about guys like that is that they're so busy and they don't exactly have time. Like, Jim's okay for interviews, but I wouldn't see him as, even just a random guest. I'm sure he's very, very busy. Now, that's not to say, if Jim is listening to this, which I am going to point this out to him on Twitter and in an email that we did this episode, if he would like to come on ToyCast and talk toys, he's more than welcome to. But I just don't see people like him and Derek. I just can't see them as... Not that they wouldn't be good guests, I just don't see them having the time to make.
That's fair enough.
Granted, these episodes only last anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. I think the only episode of ToyCast that we ever had that went 2 hours over was when we did the Revenge of the Fallen discussion and review when it was still in theaters.
Yes, that was an epic episode that I listened to. And I was so upset that I wasn't in it.
I was going to say, it's because you weren't in it. So what's been going on with you, sir?
Not much, just school-related and stuff. I'm sending out some toys for people, as I mentioned. I need to get that stuff in the mail still. Just been a bit busy to get to the post office, but it'll get out this weekend. This Saturday, I'm doing at a local comic shop. They do a 12-hour comic challenge every spring. It's a fundraiser for the Big Brothers Big Sisters chapter that they in town.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically 12 pages, 12 hours for the participants.
Right.
So you get the adrenaline going. You write your story, you draw it all up and everything, and you have it all done in 12 hours. And then they print up books. They do books as well, compiling all of the entries. I guess it sounds like it's to some extent dependent on demand, because there was a year that they didn't do one, but it looks like that last year's there's a book that they're doing which is coming out, which I actually have something in. So
cool. Yeah, I've just been podcasting my butt off like usual. We are actually going to tie episode 50 into a contest. This is something that you had wanted to do.
Just a suggestion.
No, it's fine. We can do it. Hell, as long as it doesn't cost me any money, I don't care. You had offered to get some recon ravages for, say, the U.S. listeners that don't want to deal with the mail-away stuff. And,
yeah, I said I could pick up a Recon Ravage and make it a prize for something, because I've picked up a bunch anyway.
Right.
And given that they shipped in assortments of just Recon Ravages in every case, I don't think it would be very hard for me to go back and grab another one.
Right. And the way that we're going to run this contest is you can either, it also ties into the 50th episode of ToyCast, where I've asked people to either call into the voicemail line 502-526-5821 and leave us a message either doing a toy review of your own, or you can just congratulate us on making it to 50 episodes, because honestly, I didn't ever think this show would hit 50 episodes. Or you can send an MP3 file to tfg1podcast@gmail.com, and we will randomly draw out of all the voicemails and MP3s that we receive.
Heck, it's pretty impressive. 50 episodes, and it hasn't even been a year yet. That's just wow.
Well, I've said before, this is one of those shows where, honestly, I've said it thousands of times before. I feel like a broken record. This is pretty much a show where a bunch of friends that have toys or Transformers toys or whatever want to get around, it's like going over to your best friend's house and talking the toy collections you have.
Right.
These episodes, can be recorded and released within a matter of hours, let alone days. It's just one of those easy shows where there's no research really involved. There really isn't. Yes, granted, we do look at the TF Wiki for, just purposes of, say, I don't have the toy that you have, or, vice versa, and I want to see what it looks like or whatever. It's basically, YouTube reviews without the video, is basically what it is. So yeah, it's very, very amazing. So again, I'm going to actually extend the voicemail deadline. The new voicemail deadline will be Monday, March 29th. That will be the last day that you can get voicemails in. Like I said before, send them. You can either call the voicemail number, 502-526-5821, or you can send the MP3 file to me, tfg1podcast@gmail.com. However many that we receive, those names will go into a hat, and Tekno will pick random winner. I don't know how many Ravages you're actually planning on picking up for this, if you're just going to plan on picking up one.
I was just going to get the one Ravage.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's fine. So yeah, you can have a chance to win Recon Ravage without having to deal with the mail-away here in the U.S.
Which means you don't have to get that inferior Bumblebee Soundwave 2-pack. Huzzah!
Why do Canadians and Brits always say huzzah?
That's a good question. Because we didn't betray the motherland?
Okay, I'm not touching that highly charged topic. What toy are you going to be talking about, sir?
Well, I'm going to be doing something that really, it's actually even a surprise to myself to some extent, in that it's normally, when I buy toys and that kind of thing, I normally make my judgments largely based on things like posability and aesthetics and accessories and all those types of things. But I've kind of, and I don't like giant hunks of plastic which can't do very much, like stuff like Supreme Cheetor, for instance. But every once in a while, I do make exceptions, and there's some stuff that's looked pretty darn cool in stores for a while. That was of the case where, if I were to see that for a cheap price, I'd really be tempted to pick it up. Like, for instance, with the G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra line, there were a lot of those vehicles which they kept going on sale, and I kept talking myself out of buying them because it's like the last thing you need is to start collecting vehicles. Well, I caved on to some vehicles, it seems. A few weeks back, I was getting some stuff and noticed that they had, for what I thought was a pretty good price, Night G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra Night Raven vehicle. Now, this is an update, I guess, of the original Real American Hero Night Raven. It's not as big as the original. I'm told the original was like 2 feet long. So, it's definitely smaller. But that doesn't mean it's not cool whatsoever. It's actually really, really awesome. It's the type of thing that I enjoy it now, but I would have enjoyed it even more if I was 10 years younger. Because it is so awesome as a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, the first thing is it's just got a whole bunch of accessories, and, like, for instance, with the cockpit, the way that works is that there's a little lever you pull that lowers the cockpit chair out of the bottom of the plane, so then you can put the pilot in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the actual window doesn't open, but instead a piece comes out of the bottom. And it's actually pretty cool for if you've got the plane landed, because then you can get them in and out really easily, and, it's got landing gear like pretty much like most plane vehicles. Mm-hmm. The pilot itself isn't anything really spectacular. It's like just a generic pilot figure. It fits any 3/4 inch G.I. Joe figure. So, I mean, you could put your ripcord in it if you wanted to reenact stuff from the movie, for instance, and have Marlon Wayans speaking in Celtic to try and shoot down warheads.
Oh, God. Don't remind me.
But there's some really sweet things. Like, for instance, one of the things that makes this really nice is, well, it's a plane, and as everyone knows, it's awesome when you can have your planes and stuff, like, fly around when you're role-playing and that kind of stuff. Well, it's got a firing missile system, but it goes one better in that it has a fold-down trigger in the back. There's a trigger that folds down so that you can actually hold the plane without, like, holding onto the sides or something to make it fly. You hold it like you would hold, like, a toy gun or something like that.
Right.
And there's a nice red trigger button that's right there. And you're probably not going to really be able to hear this well, but it's got lock and load action.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that came through.
Yes, you push the nose of the plane in, and then you get a lock and load. What it has is under next to each engine where the weapons are, mm-hmm. there is a rotating piece that holds 6 missiles apiece. They both move in sync when you lock and load, so that, like, it'll move to another slot. And then when you press the trigger, you get the requisite sounds. So yeah, you lock and load and shoot, and it fires off 2 missiles at once, and then you recock it and then fire another one. So really, you've got, and as with a lot of Hasbro's missiles, like, the range is pretty good for these things. I've always loved the range that Hasbro toys have. No joke here. Like, even as a kid, because I had a few toys where the range was just horrendously horrible, and it barely shot like a foot. A missile, but you can usually get several feet out of the missiles that are on spring-loaded Hasbro toys, which has always impressed me.
Right.
But yeah, so you basically got a gun-shaped plane, essentially.
I think the only reason why you wanted to review that toy was because you have electronic lights and sounds on it.
Well, no, actually. The electronic lights and sounds are sweet, but I was pretty impressed before I even put the batteries in. I was pretty impressed by it. But it's got some other lights and sounds as well, though. I may as well show this off. But, like, it's actually got some really good electronics in it. Like, the engines light up as well when you cue the sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks really good as a package. So yeah, you've got the plane cruising. Like, it even has, like, the startup cruising noise.
Yep.
And then you've got, like, dialogue and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, deliberately muffled like it's going over radio chatter.
Yeah.
And then I guess that's like a target lock sort of sound there that you can do. But yeah, and as it was illustrated when I was firing off the missiles, it alternates between the rapid fire machine gun and just a missile fire. But yeah, it's a really solid toy. It's got a nice dark blue, red plastic. It also comes with a whole bunch of stickers, which I haven't actually applied yet myself, because I just haven't gotten around to it, and it looks really nice even without it. Like, the stickers have stuff like, Cobra logos and all the numbers and all the little details and stuff. Because I guess that the vehicles have had a lot of those. Like, I've heard most of the detailing on the pit playset, for instance, apparently is done by giant sticker sheets, which you have to put on yourself.
Oh.
That's what I've seen in pictures and stuff. But yeah, it's a really nice vehicle. It's something that I don't really have anywhere to put it yet at this point, so it just slides around. But it's a fun toy. It's not a great display piece, if only because of the fact that it's a plane, and planes are kind of tricky to display when you don't want them just with their landing gear deployed. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot trickier than if they just a general vehicle, or even the amp suits from Avatar, which are also awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like that toy. But yeah, it's a pretty neat vehicle, and heck, I guess this is probably a taster for when I eventually feel compelled to buy that giant AT-AT that Hasbro's putting out for Empire Strikes Back's anniversary this year. That holds like 6 figures in the cockpit and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that thing looks awesome.
Uh-huh.
That's like the Millennium Falcon for this year. And you all remember just the epicness that is the Millennium Falcon in size. I don't have one of those, but I don't have anywhere to put one anyway, so.
I have one that transforms, unfortunately.
Oh, does it have a sombrero?
No, Millennium Falcon that transforms.
Oh, I was referring to the Han Solo Chewbacca Duocon.
No.
Where is it Chewie that has a sombrero? I can't recall.
I don't even remember. I don't know. Michael Wilson sent me a whole bunch of, half, mismatched toys and whatever else, and I opened one thing and it's the Millennium Falcon. Holy crap.
Cool.
Look on the side of it. Why the fuck does a Millennium Falcon have a fist in the side of it? Oh, wait. It transforms. No thanks. And I'm not saying no thanks to be a gift horse, looking a gift horse in Michael Wilson's mouth. I'm just saying, that toy's staying in Millennium Falcon mode.
Oh, I don't blame you. Like with the Star Wars Transformers, I've only got one of those, just the Imperial Shuttle Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
It looked a lot better in shuttle mode. But honestly, the only reason I got it was because the head kind of reminded me of G-Axis from the G2 comics.
Ah.
But they've gotten better with the Star Wars Transformers, I think, but still the big problem with those is, compared to the Marvel ones anyway, is, because I've got a few of the Marvel ones, but those have the advantage where they don't have to worry about slavish vehicle accuracy, and they're more interested in designing a cool robot that looks like the character, so that really comes through in the design. Right. Plus, also, those ones are also, for the most part, designed by Marcelo Mater, the Transformers artist. Like, for instance, that Ghost Rider one that we're getting soon that looks awesome, like, that's his design.
Cool.
But, yeah, like, they're designed, like, to be fully fledged Transformers by someone who knows the engineering. And the Star Wars ones, I think their problem was they were probably designed more by a Star Wars team, I'm guessing, and vehicle accuracy is probably the number one factor, and then trying to figure out how to get a robot to fit into that vehicle that looks like a Star Wars character.
Yeah. So is that all you have to say about your little toy there?
I guess that's about all I have to say right now, yeah. I mean, it's a fun Rise of Cobra toy. It takes up a bit of space, but not nearly as much as the Pit. But it's not that bad in terms of space. It's got a really good arsenal of lights and sounds, plus the firing missiles. Yeah, seriously, this is probably, out of the vehicles that I have that I still have from all my childhood, because I've still got all of those toys, this is probably the best vehicle that I've got. And the other ones I've got are like, I've got a Batmobile, I've got I've got the spaceship from Space Jam, I've got the Penguin's plane from the Batman Returns toy line, and the Bob's car from Reboot, which has horrendous missile range, by the way. It shoots them like a few inches.
Alright, well, I am going to be continuing my Robot Heroes coverage, and this time we're going to be talking about G1 Robot Heroes Hound and Blitzwing.
Ooh.
Why the hell Hound was packaged with Blitzwing, I have no idea. The simple fact that I also have the Optimus Prime Ravage combination, and I think that Hound would have been better packaged with Ravage rather than Optimus. Now, I don't know, because I don't have the wiki up, I don't know which wave Hound and Blitzwing were in. I know that Optimus and Ravage were in one of the most earliest waves.
Yes, they were. I mean, Prime was a no-brainer to be in an early wave, and Ravage is also a really popular character, so that was also a no-brainer to put early on, I imagine. Plus, he's a cat, a cute cat at that. So, whereas characters like, Hound, he's got a following, and so does Blitzwing, but I would count them as more second-tier characters. And even when you look at their wave mates, like they were wave mates with Sunstreaker and Galvatron, which is yet another one of those, 2-packs.
Yeah.
And I think also that, I believe, I could be wrong here, but I think that they also co-shipped with the Cheetor Black Arachnia. They co-shipped with Cheetor Black Arachnia and, who was it? Was it Beast Wars Megatron Rat Trap? I can't remember who the wave mates were.
I'm not sure.
But they did but their wave mates were two of the Beast Wars Robot Heroes 2-packs.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Rat Trap Megatron and Cheetor Black Arachnia. So.
Oh, cool. One of the things that it may just be my Hound, my version of Hound. I don't know the one that I got. One of the things that pisses me off about him, they put all the budget in his waist articulation. His waist turns 360 degrees at the Jeep front, like his chest, but his head will not turn whatsoever. Like it's like I'm actually trying to force it to turn like it's looking straight, and it will not turn. So I don't know if it's the package that I picked up, or if it's supposed to be this way on all of them. I like how his left arm, if you put it down, it looks like he's punching his own knee. And he does come with his hologram projector missile thingamajig. And overall, I think it's a good representation of Hound in the Robot Heroes style.
Oh yeah, it does. It looks like a good Hound.
I just wish that, number one, I wish all the Robot Heroes, the majority of them, weren't crouching all the time.
Again, I think we can blame Pat Lee for that one.
Well, true. Well, we can blame Pat Lee for a lot of crap. But, just really, really intuitive to his G1 design, I think. Very, very cool. And then you have Blitzwing. The coolest thing about Blitzwing, or the two coolest things about Blitzwing, is the smirk on his face, or the cheesy grin like this type of smile where he's baring his teeth, and his Energon sword thingamajig that he's holding in his left hand.
I was going to say, if memory serves, he has his sword, doesn't it? Because that's an accessory that the toy had, but you don't normally think of when you think of Blitzwing.
Yeah, no. There is also, it's very cool how they molded him with his tank and his wings, with his turret in between, and then of course obviously the wings are on the sides. They actually molded, now I gotta compare to the actual toy, because I do have a G1 Blitzwing here.
Sweet.
I'm not sure, maybe.
Because, closest I've seen to a complete G1 Blitzwing, which, I've probably seen some at conventions, but the closest thing I've seen to a complete mint box one was the green and tan recolor that Takara did in their reissue series.
Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to compare them, obviously, because they're the same character, but on the Robot Heroes version, do you have yours with you?
No, it's upstairs, sorry.
Okay. Well, when you go upstairs after we're done doing this recording and you look at the G1 Robot Heroes Blitzwing, look on the bottom of where his turret is, right above his ass. There are two silver markings that are like popped out. I think those are supposed to be some sort of boosters on the Robot Heroes. I don't know. On the Robot Hero version of him. Whereas the G1 version doesn't have that, I don't think. No. I mean, it's got booster-like stuff on his feet, but it doesn't have it like on his back type of deal, like it has it on the Robot Heroes.
Well, did the G1 animation model have anything like that? Because sometimes they homage those.
I don't know. I'm not really sure. And I'm not saying that the Robot Heroes version was a homage of the toy. I'm just comparing the differences between the two, since I have them here. And surprisingly, Blitzwing is another one of those weird G1 toys that I can actually transform without breaking it.
Huh. And I'm guessing that when you got him in the package, he came out really easily with nary a twist tie getting in the way.
Well, it was G1, so, and I bought him off of eBay, so it came loose. So, but it did come with the box. Unfortunately, my Blitzwing box is in Spanish for some fucking reason.
So it was probably Spanish release then.
Probably.
Or even like in... Because, in Mexico probably would have had the trilingual cards, so...
I have no idea. Well, the other reason why I think it's obviously Spanish, because of the Spanish box, but he also comes with his missiles or his weapons or whatever. They're not... They're the tan brown. They're not the purple color. I would have to go find them, and it would take me too long to find them. But yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things where strange. Granted, I only paid. I think I got him for like I don't know, $15, $20 on eBay. Because even though he did include his box, he was loose. But anyway, to the Robot Heroes here, very very cool. Again, I wish they would have packaged Hound with Ravage. I think it would have been a better homage to G1.
Right.
I don't know. Is there an Astro Train Robot Heroes?
No, they did not do Astro Train.
Damn it, Hasbro.
Blitzwing is the only one of the Triple Changers who got one of those.
Damn it, Hasbro, you suck.
Yeah, I'm also upset. I'm mainly just upset that we never got Inferno Tagatron. Because I wanted that Inferno badly. Because Inferno is awesome.
Inferno can burn.
The dude survived what was originally written to be his death in Season 2. That's impressive.
I know.
When you consider just what he survived.
Yeah, I know. So that's going to pretty much wrap it up for us, I think. We are probably going to cut to some clips of Sentinel Prime. And then you will hear my interview with Jim Sorenson, and then we will come back for the outro. So we will be right back. This message brought to you by Sentinel Prime.
No one's heard word one from those goofbots in nearly a decacycle. Ugh. Liquid falling from the sky? What is wrong with this planet? I hate this planet.
Hey everyone, this is Mike TFG1 Blanchard, and I have the great privilege to talk with Jim Sorenson, co-author of Transformers Animated the Allspark Almanac Volumes 1 and 2. Hi Jim, how are you?
Doing great, thanks for having me.
Very cool to have you on. Why don't you give a little, I know that you just were on Radio Free Cybertron a little while ago. Why don't you give us some background as, where you grew up and, when did your Transformers fandom start and all that?
Well, I grew up in Long Island, New York, and my Transformers fandom started when I was 8, which would put it in 1984, when they very first came out. I was really impressed with GoBots, with Transformers, Robotech, Voltron. I liked all that stuff. And I think my first Transformer was Prowl. The first one that I actually owned was Prowl, although I had a lot of fun playing with the Ravage and a Soundwave. And I guess Buzzsaw that one of my 8-year-old peers had brought over to my house. Did my mom go out immediately and try and find some Transformers? And we went looking for Optimus Prime, and we went to about 6 different stores, and they didn't have him because he probably wasn't actually out yet at that point. So I decided if I couldn't have a truck, at least a police car is pretty cool too. I settled on Prowl, and that left its mark because to this day Prowl is one of my favorite characters. And I guess my formal involvement with the fandom came when I went to college and I discovered the internet and this pretty cool place called Alt Toys Transformers, where I started posting under a couple of different names. Eventually just went with Jim Sorenson because I'm a bit of an egomaniac, so no real sense hiding behind the Scream name. But when I first started, everybody was hiding behind weird names, so I did too. It's just the culture.
Right. You kind of mentioned Prowl already, but my next question would be, do you have a favorite cartoon or specific toy from all of the incarnations of Transformers?
A favorite cartoon?
Yeah.
Well, I love G1, the American G1, of course, because of the nostalgia. I grew up with that. And then Beast Wars, I was skeptical about it first. I remember watching it probably, I think it was a Sunday morning, the pilot, and I said, there's potential here, but it seems a little derivative, and I'm not sure about the CGI. But eventually they completely won me over. I think it was the season finale when they had the Unicron cameo that made me say, okay, well, they're clearly versed in the lore to a certain extent. And I went back and rewatched them all, and I said, this is actually quite good. And then the newer one, of course, animated, really I think is something very special. So I'd say the G1 American, Beast Wars, and animated are my favorites. It's hard to actually choose which one I like best. They all do different things very well.
Yeah.
Favorite toy? I'd probably go with Laser Optimus Prime from the G2 line. I thought that was just a triumph of engineering. I love the gimmicks, the various guns that he has, the light piping that goes through his sword or his gun, the missile launcher that fires 5 missiles. I think he's a terrific toy. And then I was actually in Japan when Car Robots came out, so I got the Black Convoy, Scourge in America. And I thought, wow, what a great update for this mold. What a great deco. This was before every single Optimus Prime had to have a black redeco, so
right.
It's still somewhat fresh and new. Although I remember thinking to myself that it was disappointing that they gutted the light-up mechanism. And I always intended to find a beat-up old Laser Optimus Prime and take out the lights and replace it with my Black Convoy, but I never quite got around to doing that.
With Transformers Animated, the Allspark Almanac, what made you want to put these books together?
As opposed to sort of the earlier work that I'd done?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't seen your earlier work. I've only seen this, but because I was a fan of Animated, I'm just wondering, why did you choose to make basically a companion book for this cartoon?
Well, I guess it seemed like a very natural progression after doing the ARC books. So
okay.
To really answer that question, I'd have to say why I did the ARC books.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, the ARC books were collections of character animation models, black and white character animation models from the old Generation 1 cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 of those. The first one was American, all 4 seasons of American animation models, and I actually managed to track down every single character model for toy characters, and quite a few of the ones that were just guest stars, like Alpha Trion and Devcon and Junkion and Rekgar, Unicron, characters like that.
Right.
And then the second one, I did all the Japanese shows that came out, and I didn't quite get every character, but I got most of those characters. And I did those books because I loved animation models, and I had a little bit too much time on my hands. And for those who know me, they'll know that I can never be idle. I'm always doing something. I'm actually usually doing 2 or 3 things at once. And I was between jobs at the time. I had left a stable job to do an unstable one that was more fun, and being unstable, eventually it was consulting, and eventually our client decided they didn't want to hire us anymore, so we basically were out of work. So I had all this free time on my hands, so I said, well, I've always intended to make a website or something with these character animation models. Why don't I try? And being ambitious, I said, well, I'll try for a book. So I put together a pitch for IDW, and IDW liked it, and that's why I was able to make the ARC books. And then the Allspark Almanac seemed like a natural progression from there, so I pitched the idea of doing Transformers Animated as the animation models from that. Partially because I met Derek Wyatt at a convention. I think it was probably BotCon 2008. And it turns out that he was familiar with my animation model books,
mm-hmm.
and he used them as reference in the show. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be neat to then turn around and do the same thing with animated? So I pitched to IDW that we'd do a black and white book of animated character models, and IDW said sure. And then as I started getting material from Derek, it turned out that, of course, they did all the characters in color. In the old days, in the 1980s, all of the animation was pretty much done overseas, but the character models were made in California or New York. So they would be faxed overseas. They didn't really have any better way of transmitting them than that. So they pretty much had to be in black and white. They'd have color reference guides, but they usually tended to only be the front, and they didn't have that many copies. So almost everything was done in black and white. So that's why my Generation 1 books were in black and white. But then, in modern times, it's really easy to just send an email with a color image as an attachment, so everything's done up in color. So I thought, okay, why not do it in color? And then, as we started putting it together, we realized that we had so much material. We didn't just have the robots, but we also had all the backgrounds and all the props. Literally, we had everything that Cartoon Network had, they gave to us in terms of animation model and reference. So we said, we can cover everything. And it started to require more and more explanations to make sense of what you're looking at. It's pretty simple. You don't need a lot of text if all you're looking at is Bumblebee. You can pretty much get away with just labeling your character. But when you start showing everything, you really need to contextualize it more. And that's where that's why we decided to come up with bios for the characters and explanations for what you're looking at. And then we started writing the bios, and they turned out to be a little bit dry as bios written from a theoretically objective point of view tend to be. So we said, well, why make it objective? Why not make it completely subjective? Why not put it in universe? And once we hit that decision, the book started to look a lot like the final product.
Yeah, that kind of ties into my next question, because when I first bought Volume 1, and I started reading through it, and I started reading some of the characters' bios as other characters were writing, like, say, even though I have it right here next to me, I don't remember off the top of my head, say Lugnut wrote the bio for Blitzwing or vice versa or whatever. When I was reading through the bios, I could actually hear the voices of the characters in my head. How did you tap into the personalities of each character writing the other characters' bios?
We watched a lot of animated. We had the whole thing on our TiVo, so we were able to go back and rewatch the episode. So if we wanted to write an episode guide or a character bio for, say, Blitzwing, and we the first step is to say who would have the most interesting perspective on Blitzwing. Mm-hmm. And we thought, okay, Lugnut. Lugnut works next to Blitzwing. He knows him pretty well. He respects him on some level, but he also is annoyed with him on some other levels. So there's a little bit of tension there just within Lugnut. So he seemed like a good choice. And then we watched a lot of animated to try and internalize that voice, and we wrote it out. And it helped that we had Derek and Marty reading through the books too, because they gave us some notes when they thought, if they thought we hadn't quite gotten something right. That didn't happen so often in terms of voice. Mostly it was in terms of facts. We referenced something, and he said, oh, no, actually it turns out it was some other way. But every once in a while they had a note on the voice too. And the reason it occurred to me is because of the specific example you used, which with Lugnut, the notes they said was, every paragraph that comes out of Lugnut's mouth should be centered around Megatron. Doesn't really matter what the subject is. It should be how it relates to Megatron. So when we're talking about Blitzwing, it's not so much that Blitzwing is unstable, it's that Blitzwing's instability hinders his effectiveness in serving Megatron's agenda. Ah. So it helped. So in that specific case, it definitely helped to have, vis-a-vis voice, it helped to have Marty's perspective.
Right. Now, when I first bought this, I thought at the time, because at first I was skeptical about Transformers Animated, and then I got to watching it more, because at the time I wasn't watching it very frequently, like when it was on air. I eventually got the DVDs and eventually caught up with Season 3. When I first heard about Allspark Almanac Volume 1, originally I thought it was the end-all, be-all, everything for the entire show in one book. So was there, because when I got to the end of it, of reading it, I'm like, wait, where's season 3? What the hell's going on? So was there specific reasoning in having 2 volumes of the book?
Well, I wouldn't exactly say specific reasonings in having 2 volumes. I would say there are specific reasons for why we cut it off at the end of season 2.
Okay.
And there's a number of reasons, but the main reason is that when we wrote the book, season 3 hadn't come out yet.
Ah.
We would have had a hard time doing it. It's not that we absolutely couldn't have, because we actually had all of the scripts and storyboards for season 3, so we could have had a go at it. But the trouble is, it can be really hard to read a script and a storyboard and get the sense of what the episode is actually going to feel like. And sometimes if you listen to people talk about doing adaptations of movies and whatnot, generally they're working from scripts or storyboards. And sometimes as a result of that, they choose to emphasize scenes that really weren't that important in the movie, or maybe even got cut out of the movie. For instance, the Transformers the movie adaptation, the classic 1986 movie, the first adaptation by Marvel, not the more modern one by IDW, had the planet Junkion fly towards Unicron, and that obviously was cut out of the final movie. So we wanted to, we were hesitant to try and review something that we hadn't, or not review, but try to make an episode guide to a show that we hadn't actually watched. And then the other reason was space. We were originally allocated 208 pages, and we kept going back to IDW and pushing and saying, well, can we have 212? Well, can we have 260? And eventually we got them up to 220 and the inner cover, front and back cover. So we effectively got an extra 14 pages out of them. And they said, okay, that's really, guys, that's enough. You're going to have to deal with the space you have. So we wanted to be able to cover everything as thoroughly as possible. So we thought it was a better idea to do a really thorough, exhaustive job on seasons 1 and 2 than to try and cram a whole nother, there's a good maybe 50 characters or so introduced in season 3. A lot of them are cameos, but a lot of them aren't. We wouldn't want to shortchange them. So if we wanted to try and fit 50 more characters in, we would have had to get rid of 50 pages of other material. And I would have a hard time thinking what we'd get rid of. And there's some pieces that are a little bit more modular than others, like, maybe we didn't need to cover Detroit, but I really wanted to cover Detroit. And if we got all the characters into the first volume, we definitely wouldn't have been able to do a second volume, because we just wouldn't have had much to cover. Nobody wants to get a second volume that's just Detroit and backgrounds and stuff. They're going to want characters, they're going to want episodes. So those are the 2 reasons, that we weren't sure we could do a good job with the show we hadn't seen, and that we didn't really have enough room to do the kind of job we wanted to do.
How far along are you guys on Volume 2?
We're pretty far at this point. Our deadline's in about 3 weeks. So Part 1 is about 95% done. Part 1 is going to be Season 3, and it's going to have a very similar feel to the first book. And then Part 2 is about 50% done. That's going to be more of the behind-the-scenes stuff. That's mostly where we're working now. There's a few last-minute, harder pieces from 1 that we're still working on, but for the most part, 1 looks like it's going to look. And we also haven't done any of the, or many of the interstitials yet to separate out the chapters, and we haven't done the things like the table of contents or the introduction or the acknowledgement section, which is non-trivial work, because we do have to make new artwork for it, or find existing artwork that we think would go there, because we don't waste a single page. We try and make sure that every page has some sort of model on it, or drawing, or at least an interesting factoid. Right.
You had mentioned in the Radio Free Cybertron interview that you did that you wanted to explore, like you just said, the behind-the-scenes stuff. Did Hasbro give you any of the Transformers animated toys that have not been released yet, such as Rodimus or anything like that?
Hasbro's given us some things we can use from toys that haven't yet come out.
Cool. How many cover designs did you look at before the final cover was chosen? Because the final cover, I believe it's the final cover, has been shown off with the Amazon listing. Now, is that the final cover, or how many other designs did you look at?
The cover on Amazon is the final cover, or 99% the final cover. It's possible something might shift a millimeter or something, but basically that's the cover that's going to be on the book. How many cover designs did we look at? We went through a lot of sketches and a lot of ideas. Mm-hmm. We were thinking that maybe it would be nice to do some Decepticons because the first book featured Autobots, and that way we could sort of mirror it a bit. And the challenge there was that we also wanted to keep a nice sense of fun. Mm-hmm. And the Decepticons don't lend themselves as well. You could do some stuff with Lugnut, maybe. He can be a little goofier, the Constructicons. But a lot of the Decepticons are just too menacing to really be fun. And then even with characters like the Constructicons, we also wanted to make sure that at least one of the characters on the cover was one of the sort of iconic core characters. So that sort of limited our ideas, and we bounced them around. And eventually Bill actually came up with the idea for the cover that we wound up using, and Marcel, I thought, did a terrific job with it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I think it's very funny that you guys have them holding or looking at other toys or the toy boxes. That's very, very cool. One of the things that really kind of shocked me with Season 3 was what Derek did with Shockwave. Can you tell us if True Colors Shockwave will be in the book or not?
The animation model?
The bio, animation model, anything.
Oh, yeah, we'll have material about him.
Way cool. Can you tease us with anything else from Volume 2?
You have to be a little bit more specific than that.
How much Rodimus coverage are we getting?
There'll be decent amount on Rodimus. I don't think Rodimus fans will be unhappy.
Okay. Are we going to get a shot of him being cosmic rusted?
That's possible.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, I guess to wrap this up, where can people either find or interact with you on the internet?
Well, I have a blog called Disciples of Boltax. That's probably the best place to reach me. I try and update it a few times a week. I do reviews of comic books and some television shows I watch. And on Tuesdays, I try to post new character models from Generation 1 that haven't before been published, because I have quite a backlog of stuff that didn't make it into the ARC books, so I usually can find something interesting to share with the audience. I'm also on the Transformers Wiki, and I post on Twitter as Sentinel Prime, so I'm not too hard to find.
Okay, I got to bring this up. Why did you choose Sentinel as your Twitter personality?
Oh, Sentinel is my favorite character from Animated.
Really?
I can't get enough of him. I think he was one of the real breakaway characters. I mean, Sentinel Prime has been part of the mythology of Transformers since, sometime in the late 1980s. Simon Furman was talking about him as part of the lineage of Primes. But he'd always been something of a cipher, a non-entity. Even in Megatron Origin, where he plays a substantial role, he didn't really get a whole lot of characterization, maybe a little bit. So the idea of him as this rival, this antagonist, but basically meaning well, I thought was really fun. I thought they executed it well. I think Townsend Coleman did a fantastic job with the character. Mm-hmm. I really like him. That's the short answer as to why I picked him. Also, he's such a lovable buffoon that I can play dumb, and playing dumb is well, it's a surprisingly effective tool sometimes. You just don't get certain things. Somebody brings up some innuendo and it just goes right over your head. So it can be a fun position to take sometimes. And I certainly think that there's a reason that Sentinel wrote perhaps just a little bit more than his fair share of the bios in the first book, and that trend will probably continue a bit in the second.
Okay, now that you bring up as far as other characters writing other characters' bios, have you guys decided who will write a majority of the bios outside of Sentinel? Like, who's going to write, say, Rodimus's bio or True Colors Shockwave? Will True Colors Shockwave have the same bio as Volume 1, or will it be different?
True Colors Shockwave won't be getting a bio per se.
Oh, man. Well, it is the same character. It's just different colors, but that's cool.
Yeah, we went back and forth. The truth is, we're very tight on space. We have a lot more material than we have room for.
Mm-hmm.
So certain characters that have new designs, every character that had a new design, we had to decide how much we wanted to dwell on that. And I think we managed to get all the designs into the book, but they didn't all get a new bio to go with it because, frankly, we wouldn't have all that much more to say about.
Right.
I mean, Shockwave's personality, as it was laid out in the first book, hasn't really changed, whereas someone like Wasp has. So
right.
Wasp is a character that actually does get additional space devoted to him for a new bio.
Yeah.
Also, Wasp had a substantial redesign, going from Cybertronian mode to Earth mode and then to the techno-organic form is, I think, a much bigger transition than just new colors. But the character of Shockwave, I felt like there was pretty good continuation there. We learned a little bit more about him, but most of that we are going to work into the episode guides.
Right. I'm actually flipping through Volume 1 now. I'm actually looking for my favorite page, which is the Jazz page and the Blur page. I just love how you guys took the book and just gave all kinds of view aspects of each character. And I don't know, for some odd reason, I was really drawn to Jazz out of animated. I don't know if it's Phil Lamar's voicing of the character or if the way he looks. And the funny thing is, even though I love G1 Jazz and I love Scatman Crothers doing that voice, I actually prefer animated Jazz over the G1 version. I don't know why.
You know, the Generation 1 Jazz was in a lot of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
You get a whole lot of direct characterization. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it seemed like he was mostly being Prime's number 2. It didn't feel like there were a whole lot of episodes that really starred Jazz. There were a couple, but not out of the 65 or so season 1 and 2 episodes where Jazz was really one of the main characters. I didn't feel like you got to know him all that well. Whereas Jazz, even though obviously he's in a lot fewer episodes, I thought maybe he had a little bit more to do.
Oh yeah, and just the way, now I don't know how Phil Lamar approached the voicing of him, but just the way that, the whole retro, and I know that on the Season 2 commentary of one of the episodes, the creators said that, they wanted to make him kind of like retro and stuff like that, where he's, he pretty much takes to Earth as soon as he gets there, whereas Sentinel, on the other hand, doesn't know how to drive, doesn't like the rain, can't stand the fleshy bots.
It's a great contrast between those two. But to answer a question that you asked a couple of minutes ago, all of the bios for Part 1 are written at this point, and almost all the pages of biographies are laid out. So that's all pretty much done.
Very, very cool. All right, Jim, I would like to thank you for talking with me. People will be able to find this interview on the ToyCast feed and All Things Transformers. I may actually also pass this on to my other friends at thisweekingeek.net, and I may have them put this up hopefully they'll put this up as a special interview for thisweekingeek.net, so it'll get the word out about Transformers Animated, the Allspark Almanac Volume 2. When about, I know you said in the RFC interview, it's releasing either right around BotCon or after BotCon?
Yeah, right now it's looking like it's either the week before or the week after BotCon. I'm not sure which. If it is the week after BotCon, they very well might have a few copies to sell at BotCon, but I can't promise that. That's going to be up to IDW.
Yeah, true. Okay, thank you very much, Jim. We'll ask you to hold the line, and we will be right back.
Don't you answer your hailing frequencies anymore, Optimus? So, you bots been ignoring me all this time? Or are you just too busy cozying up to organics to pick up a comlink? Got more important things to do than listen to your excuses, Optimus. We're in hot pursuit of a convicted Decepticon spy.
Oh, you mean the one you just let get away?
You slagwell better have proof! Well, don't just sit there with your engines idling. This location needs to be locked down. I need a sit-rep stat!
I'd like to thank Jim Sorenson for taking the time out to talk with me about the upcoming release of Transformers Animated Allspark Almanac Volume 2. Jim did say that it will be released either a week before or a week after BotCon. He did say that if it's released a week before, that they may or may not have copies being sold at BotCon. He just doesn't know yet. I'd like to thank him for the time that he took to talk with me. So the contest. The contest starts as soon as this episode goes up. Basically, what we're looking for you to do is send in a voicemail for our 50th episode. You can either do a toy review, or you can just give us some constructive criticism, or if you want to give us praise, that's always good. And Techno will take however many voicemails there are. He will take those, put them in a hat, and randomly draw one name to win a Recon Ravage.
He's a really nice figure, as I said last episode. That chrome is godly just in how it's implemented. Yeah,
I saw your pictures on TwitPic when you were pitting him against what's her name?
Oh yeah, my Reveltech Yoko. Yeah.
Yeah, the redheaded chick.
Yeah.
Alright.
Did you see the ones I put with her and Zap Brannigan?
I might have. I don't know. I'll have to look in a minute. Okay. So we have anything else we want to say?
Only just, I guess, to get people buy the Allspark Almanac Volume 2 when it comes out. You shouldn't need Fred Willard wheeling and dealing in order to get you to buy it.
Yeah, no. Which, again, that would be a cool interview. Ooh. Jeez, you just gave me another damn idea. I hate this crap.
Excellent.
Again, the deadline for voicemails is Monday, March 29th. It is no longer Sunday the 21st. It is now Monday, March 29th. So get those voicemails in, and you could win a Recon Ravage. Thank you for joining us here on ToyCast. There are several ways to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show. First is you can stop by geekcastradio.com, check out all the other podcasts there. The second is you can stop by productandempire.com/nexus. Those are our forums. And the third is you can leave the show feedback in iTunes. I'm going to have to check that and see if we have any new reviews. I don't think we do, but I'll check it. We have a voicemail line, like I said. Call us and leave us your thoughts on each episode. Be sure to say which show you're leaving the message for and your name. The number is 502-526-5821. Again, make sure you either call that number or send in MP3 email to tfg1podcast@gmail.com. Excuse me. You can follow us on Twitter. The show name there is TF ToyCast. Mine is TFG1Mike. And what is your Twitter?
Mine is GeneralTekno.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of ToyCast. Wish you'll join us next time. Be sure to visit our sponsors, www.bigbadtoystore.com, for all your Transformers and other toy-related needs and more. For now, I am TFG1Mike with
GeneralTekno.
saying the immortal words of Optimus Prime, transform and roll out, and thank you for listening. Until next time.